guys, and welcome to another Ramblogue today. It's another segment from our Nothing But Static podcast. This is one where we talk in the wake of the news that Simpsons has been renewed for seasons 33 and 34. We talk about the show's viability long term, whether it will ever end, and how you would even do that. It's actually interesting. It's not a set. We really, when we went into the podcast, we were only going to talk about it for a couple of minutes, and it ended up becoming quite a big discussion. And we just thought people might find it interesting. So here it is, clipped out. Obviously, if you'd like to hear the full episode of Nothing But Static, you can head over to like iTunes or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So you can head over to nothingbutstatic.co.uk, where you'd be able to download the full episode or other episodes. We talk about other subjects. But yeah, in the meantime, enjoy the discussion.
Simpsons quickly, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I completely get it. I see why. Because I suspect Simpsons has actually, whilst not kind of critically, has had a bit of a resurgence from, like, I expect the Disney Plus numbers for The Simpsons are good. Like, you hear of a lot of people rewatching it. It's something a lot of people will chuck on in the background. As a business decision makes... Pardon, sorry?
We've been doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I know of multiple people that have done it. Like, it's clearly a thing, makes complete sense. I think the only shame is I feel like The Simpsons has almost gone. So there was a point where it was like, if you end this now, people will. Even when the show was critically being panned and the show had been on, like, you know, I'm talking post, like, series 20 or whatever, I think it was at a point where it's like, no, if you ended it now, it would still be a big deal. You'd get the tribute shows, you'd get the interviews, you'd get people going, what the fuck, The Simpsons has become part of day-to-day life, da-da-da-da-da. And I think it could loop around back to that, but I almost feel like it's gone on so long now, that if they did decide to end it, I'm not 100% sure people would care. Having said that, if they did a sequel movie, I think people would go and it would still be successful. So at this point, it's kind of like, yeah, no, of course it's been renewed.
You see, you say that, and I was thinking about that, and that was my initial thought too. It was like, yeah, of course it's been renewed. Like, Disney Plus has probably, spiked interest in it again, and that's suggests a certain amount of viability still. It can't be the most expensive show to make. The cast obviously took pay cuts a few years back. We know about that. So, they probably make it on a reasonable, for the amount of viewing figures it consistently gets, because it's The Simpsons. It just, it sustains itself, and therefore, why would you stop it, right? But two thoughts I had after I had that thought. One, cancelling it's not going to affect Disney Plus, because there are 30-odd seasons of the fucking show. So, 30-odd seasons to stream, add 2 more, don't add 2 more. It's not going to change people rewatching it, because let's be honest, the people rewatching it are rewatching the first 8 to 10 seasons. They're not watching the later stuff. That's for a fact. And then the second...
I reckon some might have gone back. How much of it they get through, I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah.
Some probably tried.
What's that, sorry?
I suspect a few people tried. Like, I am too busy, but I would have been tempted to go, you know what, I'm going to rewatch The Simpsons and I'm going to stick with it. And yeah, how far do I get?
Yeah, I don't know, 9 seasons. Once you get that far on any show, even if the quality didn't decline, you'd maybe be a little bit tired of it. But yeah, maybe. Yeah. But my point is, people aren't digging out classics from season 26. The Disney Plus numbers are probably those first few seasons, and everything after that is probably doing okay. So I don't know, what does adding 2 more seasons do to the Disney Plus of it all? Almost nothing. So and then the other factor I thought is, you want a cheap ratings boost, Fox. Announce you're ending The Simpsons, because I'll tell you what, I'm watching the final episode.
Oh, everyone would.
So, if Fox wanted to launch a new show, a new sitcom, a new animated sitcom, and they had one in their back pocket, which they've really put up, Duncanville, I think, was last year. What was that? No, the Great North or something? I don't know. There's a few they're doing at the moment that they're bringing in and out. If you wanted to launch a new animated show, that's the night you do it. End The Simpsons, bring in something else. So I was kind of surprised because... Go on.
There's no way you could end The Simpsons. Like, I can't think of over the top, they all die or whatever, doesn't work. I
like Al Jean's original vision for it. Have you heard what Al Jean wanted to do?
Didn't he do he made it a loop, didn't he? So it ended just before the first episode begins.
Yeah, so the first episode begins with The Simpsons going to see Bart at like a Christmas a Christmas like pageant at school or something like that, and Bart sings like in the choir or whatever. He wanted to show them going to that, so that if you were watching it on like Disney Plus, even it would just loop round. When it ends, it would start. I don't. Is he still working on the show? Is that still his plan? Because I know he'd left at that point, but he's left and come back multiple times over the years.
I don't know.
So I don't know if he's still working on the Simpsons or not.
It is something. The problem is, I think the actual right end to that show is I didn't watch it in spoilers, but by all accounts, the final episode of Everybody Loves Raymond is a fairly standard episode and ends with them all at the table together. There's no big like finale plot.
Mm-hmm.
That seems the right end for that show, and I think it's the same with The Simpsons. You almost don't want it to. It's like, as much as people criticised at the time the final episode of the original Doctor Who, because it just ends with them walking off talking about getting a cup of tea, that is actually the right ending for Doctor Who. Like, if someone was to end Doctor Who now, I think that's the way they should go. The story continues. The adventure continues. It's not... Yeah. It's not a show built in. All of these shows aren't based around people having babies and weddings and big life moments. So, you know, the story continues, sort of thing.
Like a subtler version of the Sherlock ending. You know, they're still off on their adventures. Like, you won't see them anymore, exactly. But that's still just carrying on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for adventure shows, and I know The Simpsons, for adventure shows or sitcoms where they don't have, you know, births, marriages, deaths, all these big moments. And maybe Everybody Loves Raymond did. I didn't watch the show. Maybe I'm doing a disservice there. Although I don't mean to. That's not a criticism. Some sitcoms work fine in that format, i.e. The Simpsons. So, yeah, I just think maybe they're continuing, Dan, because they're just like, has anyone got an idea for an ending that beats Al's original ending? No? All right, renewed for another 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I do think Simpsons will end, and I think it will end before it hits 40 seasons. The question just is when, like, and how, like, in terms of what they choose to do with it. I mean, God, looking at the ratings of the previous season, like, I mean, it's getting about 1 million viewers. That's low.
It probably still does quite well in that sweet merch, though.
Yeah, but you don't need the show to exist for the merch. This is the problem now. You see, you can know, like, because I agree with you on the premise of, like, you know, you got to keep the show. The show is keeping certain stuff alive, like it's allowing for more episodes to be produced. Therefore, you're keeping the show in the zeitgeist to a certain degree. But once you've done as many seasons as this show has, and have as many episodes, you know, hundreds and hundreds of episodes under your belt, you just rerun now forever. You don't need to make more of this show anymore, ever. There's no the benefit of that now. The Simpsons merch will always exist. If this show ended this year, Simpsons merch isn't going away. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's too in the zeitgeist, and it is still all available, both through reruns on, like, I don't know, Comedy Central or wherever else the reruns in the US, and then, like, whoever's got the contract for that, or you know, through your Disney Plus. You know, it's not going anywhere. It's The Simpsons. So at a certain point, they're making it for pretty much no reason. It's not like they're generating new merch. It's not like, so when Disney bring out a new Cars movie, it's been pretty widely known the Cars movies don't make that much money in cinemas. But every time they bring out a new Cars movie, there are a bunch of new characters in the movie, which allows them to make a bunch of new toys. And that is where the money is in Cars as a franchise. So they keep making the movies, and that's fine. I'm on board with that if that's what you want to do. Like, the kids seem to enjoy the movies. I think the third one was actually pretty good in the end. Cool, crack on. But like with The Simpsons, I just don't know what they're getting out of it anymore, like financially.
Because isn't there a thing where they don't even, like, there's a big gap in the DVDs? Like, they stopped making the DVDs, and there's a whole load of seasons in the middle that have just never been released on DVD.
Yeah, because it took them so long to start releasing them. So they went out and they started, like, doing them one at a time during the sort of, like, heyday of DVD, just before, you know, streaming sort of accidentally killed DVD sales and physical media. So I think they got out to, like, I think they were in, like, season, like, 15 or something like that, or 16, and then they eventually, like, there was a big tail off, like... in terms of sales, so they just stopped going back and produce because they're expensive to make those DVDs. They're very expensive to make. But if you look back, I'm looking back now, like in the show's heyday, it was getting 14, 15 million viewers on average a season, 10 million viewers. Even as recent, even as in 2003, season 15, 10 million viewers was the average. Its current average is between 1 and 3 million viewers.
That's still, for modern day ratings, though, that's still not awful, is it?
I guess, but for Fox, I don't know. I think Bob's Burgers does better. I think I'd have to double check, but I don't know. I mean, maybe as I was saying like earlier, maybe it is just at this point sustaining itself. It's cheap enough to make that it sort of covers itself. So why cancel it? You know, it's self-sustaining. Why would you shoot that in the foot? Looking at Bob's Burgers. Oh, I don't know. Actually, Bob's Burgers is about the same.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, it's not because there have been shows where it's like, this show's doing really well, and I'm like, oh wow, and I like go to like the Wikipedia. Like, I think I did it with Keenan. It was like Keenan gets great ratings, and I go to the Wikipedia, and I'm like, oh, is that a great rating now? You know, I'm not insulting the show, just compared to TV's heyday.
Ratings are contextual now, and I do think this is a good thing. They've sort of now they look at what network it's on, what kind of show it is, what it's up against. So when they see something's got good ratings and you see a low number and you're thinking, how is that good ratings? It's about the time slot. It's about what it was up against. It's about what network it's on. You know,
and it's also probably about who then goes to it. You know, online. You know, on Hulu. On so their own website. So all of DVR
numbers are important, but then also demographics are important. So a show like Castle, which had kind of middling ratings in terms of the total figure, was a huge hit for was it CBS that was on because. It specifically pulled in a demographic they were able to sell ads to. It was like sort of middle-aged women upwards, but that's a profitable demographic, you know.
So all of that applies to that Simpsons number you've just looked at and gone, that's not very high.
Yeah. I guess maybe they do pull in from a demographic. Maybe it's the time slot, like on a Sunday night. Is that a really good rating for a Sunday night? Yeah, maybe it is. But I mean, it's no secret. Like I said, that they've had to cut costs on the show, which certainly suggests you know that a certain amount of penny pinching has gone on. You know, the fact that they had to sort of reduce the cast's contracts a few years ago, which when the cast threw up their, you know, got a stink on about that, I was like, come on guys, you can see the ratings going down. Like, you have to understand that your wage is going to be connected to the success of the show. They can't keep paying you what they paid you when the show was raking in the millions.
And it's also difficult, isn't it, whenever anything does that, because it's kind of like, you're still getting a fair amount for the whole season, aren't you? And like you say, I think huge pays like that. I'm not one of those people. It's like, whilst I do get it, and of course, Dan, there are better uses for money like this. But, you know, whenever anyone criticises footballers, for example, I'm like, it's what their profession is. Unfortunately, it's you know, it's what the tickets bring in. It's what that industry is worth. And when The Simpsons was at its heyday, that show was worth a high wage to the cast. The show is, as you've just said, not worth that anymore because it's not getting the ratings. It's not getting it in. So therefore, you've got to take a lower cut or walk away, which is obviously your choice as well.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, the fact, look, if you're a fan of The Simpsons, you still watch The Simpsons, or it's like comfort TV and you still watch the new episodes as they go out, awesome. Like, I just had a look. They had an episode last season with Benedict Cumberbatch as a guest star. They did an episode where J.J. Abrams was a guest star. I guess they're still doing stuff. I don't know.
It's because there's people like, because obviously they've had like Ed Sheeran and stuff on recently as well. There's a whole, there are still people coming up and coming to popularity, although obviously all of those names have been popular for a fair while now, that grew up on the show. So you're always going to get people wanting to guest star because, you know, if you and I suddenly became famous, you know, Nothing But Static took off or something, and someone said, do you want to be on The Simpsons? We'd be like, hell yeah, because whilst it's declined in quality, it's still an icon of our childhood.
Yeah, but but I do think in terms of just like analysing the show a little bit, I think all that stunt, like the fact that like so many guest stars per season now is ridiculous. Like we've rewatched up to season 8. And there have been a handful of guest stars. It's, you know, you can count. There's less than a season's worth of episodes with a guest star, I'm pretty sure, that we've seen in the 8 seasons we've watched. That is not good.
Yeah, At no point have either of us defended the quality of the current episodes. Like, it's although I have to say I've not watched it, but from everything I hear, like the insane amount of guest stars.
I dip in every now and then. Like I feel for some reason I ended up watching an episode reasonably recently that had Miley Cyrus as a guest star, and then I saw an episode last year when it got nominated for an award alongside Steven Universe, a particular episode, and I thought, an episode of The Simpsons that's been nominated for awards, like, maybe they're still occasionally hitting it out the park. So I dug out the episode. It was fine. It was quaint. Yeah. It was dated, and it was dated and came out a year ago. Well, maybe not from now. It was a year ago when I watched it, so you know what I mean. But yeah, it didn't hold up. But the show certainly has shown its age as it's gone on. But yeah, just.
Oh, and can we stop? Like, right. Just last quick thing. We've talked about this way longer than I thought we would, but last quick thing. I'm so fed up of seeing headlines like this. So when I can never pronounce her, I'm going to butcher her first name. I feel really bad. The Vice President Harris, what's her first name?
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, right. Kamala Harris. The headlines should not have been, did The Simpsons predict the future and predict Kamala Harris's outfit for inauguration? Because in a inauguration scene set in The Simpsons in the future, Lisa wears a similar outfit. Right. If that headline is anything, it should be, did Kamala Harris get inspiration from Lisa Simpson? Because that's the logical way round of that being. Not that The Simpsons predicted it. Like,
yeah, but The Simpsons does have an insane history of predicting things.
It does.
And you're leaning into internet clickbait there by doing that, because obviously that's the thing people expect is The Simpsons did it first.
And there are some times where it's like, wow, they really did predict that. But there's other times where people just like in that example.
Yeah, that's clutching at straws.
Yeah, like, that's not the way round to do it. And by the way, obviously she was not inspired by Lisa Simpson, but like that's the way round that headline should be written. But yeah, sometimes it absolutely does. And then there's other times where it's like, it said this word, and then 4 years later this happened. And it's like, I think there was one where like there was a book with the word Ebola on before the Ebola crisis. And it's like, yes, but Ebola was still a thing. Like, Ebola existed when they did that. Simpsons didn't make up Ebola. Like, there's just a few instances where it's like, this is clutching at straws a little bit. But then there are, yes, absolutely instances where it's like, wow, that really does look like it's predicting something.
Agreed. Yeah. So yeah, I think on the whole, like, they'll keep renewing it for. I don't think it'll get to season 40, but as long as it remains like, self-sustaining, there's no real unless Fox want, the ratings boost it will get if it goes into a final season. They'll just let it simmer away. Truthfully.
Yeah.
And like, it's one of those things where it's hard to know the exact finances about how profitable it really is. But at a certain point, it will be less profitable than. At a certain point, it'll be bringing in less money than it's costing, and it'll just go away. And I think anyone who thinks it's going to be on forever, I think maybe. I mean, it could. I mean, look, I'd never rule anything out. Maybe that just out of sheer commitment to a phenomenon, from the 90s, like maybe they will, but I doubt it.
But they do have another way of getting the ratings boost, which is to do a second movie.
Yes, which I do think would reinvigorate the show somewhat. So they have still got that in their back pockets.
Mm.